Welcome, everybody, back to the Nuggets of Gold podcast and YouTube channel. It is me and Aiden today, and we are going to be previewing this 49ers-Cardinals matchup. We also just talked about Trey Lance yesterday. Our statement was that he needs to be the starter. So that's our past video. So if you want to check that out after this video, go ahead and check that out. But let's get into this 49ers-Cardinals matchup. Now, heading into this year, I think most people would have expected the 49ers to be the favorites in this game. However, now the Cardinals are 5-point favorites last time I checked. So definitely, interesting that we're this far into the year and they're a 5-point favorite. Cardinals have absolutely earned that. They're a 4-0 team. They have a couple very big victories. The biggest team that they beat was the Rams, but also week 1 was a statement game where they came out and statement game for Chandler Jones. He goes against Taylor Lewan, who is still banged up, but 5-sack performance in week 1. They kind of hit the ground running. The offense is going crazy. AJ Green looks even better. Christian Kirk looks pretty solid. So you have those guys with DeAndre Hopkins. Chase Edmonds looks like a very good player, and they're finally giving him the ball a little bit more. But this offense is extremely explosive, and some of their holes on the defensive side, especially at corner, haven't really been they've been put to the test, but I think that having Chandler Jones and JJ Watt up front and having a dominant Chandler Jones at that, it really helps your corners. We've seen that. We saw that a lot in 2019 with the 49ers, even though they had kind of a revolving door at that cornerback 2 spot. It didn't matter a ton because of how much pressure they were generating. So you have the good defensive line. You have the good front 7 overall. You also got Budda Baker in the back end. They're able to kind of cover it up a little bit. Now, we'll see how long that lasts. We'll see how healthy this team stays. They are one of the more healthy teams in the league, but they're 4-0. So, Aiden, what is your thought on the Arizona Cardinals heading into this game?
I fully expected them to lose to the Rams last week, and they looked good in a convincing win. I think Kyler is probably the MVP front runner right now. He's not trying to do too much, and they have so many weapons. We thought the Seahawks were going to have all these weapons, and the Rams got Deshaun Jackson, but AJ Green has been really, really good for them. I like Rondale Moore a lot. Kirk is still there. Max Williams has turned himself into a nice tight end. Cliff and Kyler have some very interesting weapons to work with. It'll come down to the Niners defense getting stops. I expected the Niners to own the line of scrimmage more than they did against both the Packers and the Seahawks. But I think after 2 subpar showings, this offensive line might be like, okay, it's time to show who we are. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to run the ball in a more efficient way, especially with Lance doing some quarterback stuff. Hopefully, fingers crossed, as we record this right now, where he's planning on starting. But it's a game where we're 5.5 point underdogs, and that isn't a position the Niners have been in a lot over the past, I guess last year because of injuries, but it's not a position the healthy 49ers have been in since, I guess, the start of 2019, where we kind of came out of nowhere. But it's kind of one of these trap games where I feel like the Cardinals might look past us and Lance could look really good. There's a lot of unknowns. So excited to see how Lance looks specifically, but also how this Niners defense looks after 2 very poor second halves against both solid offenses, but this is the real test.
I think that one of the biggest things that can kind of give the 49ers the advantage in this game would be if Trey Lance starts, and then if he looks pretty good, if they're able to push the ball downfield. That's going to be the biggest thing for this offense. If you can push the ball downfield, if they go out there, and I don't know how the Cardinals defense will approach it, but for instance, if they went out there against Jimmy, we know what they're going to do. They're going to stack the box, and so far that year, that's absolutely killed the 49ers. Maybe they don't do that with Lance. Maybe they do. They don't really give him all that respect, in terms of pushing the ball downfield. But let's say that they do, right? And they come out and they stack the box, and they're ready for Lance to run the ball ton. And they hit a couple, even one deep ball down the field to Ayuk or Debo, Kittle, whoever it is, it's going to make the running lanes open up a lot more. And seems like Trent Williams is going to play. That's a huge thing going into this game. But you have him, Mike McGlinchey, George Kittle, still has that calf injury, but, he's getting a little bit better, just as time goes on, like he's going to. Kyle Juszczyk, Trey Sermon, probably Elijah Mitchell back. There's reason to believe that the 49ers should be they should run the football really well on the Rams. So it's going to be really important if they can get that box thinned out a little bit, since we haven't seen that in a couple weeks. And teams have definitely caught on to, Jimmy's only throwing across the middle. We can just kind of focus our entire defense there, have our corners play opened up, looking at Jimmy at kind of disrespectful covered threes, covered twos. Like, they're playing everything around the line of scrimmage, and you don't really see that as much in the NFL anymore. Like, cover two is used a lot less, but you're going to see a lot of safeties hanging around the line of scrimmage. And you don't you see the way the corners line up. Like, they're way inside on receivers. If you have a person that's like doing that, you're going to try to throw it over their head and outside. So we're going to see if they kind of do that with Lance. I would expect it looks a little less, but I don't know. What's your thought on it?
Deep shots are huge. It's something the Niners haven't been able to do with Jimmy at quarterback the past few years. Even with like Mullins, he was even able to push the ball down the field more. It's something I think teams haven't seen from this Niners offense in a while, maybe even since Kyle was with the Falcons, because he went from Hoyer to Jimmy to Beathard to Mullins, back to Jimmy, and just kind of a door of guys without big arms. Lance has a big arm. I think he'll dial something up early, and like we mentioned yesterday, it could be one of those fake quarterback runs, stop and pop and just chuck. I think a guy that could be the recipient of that is Trent Sherfield. He's quick, he's fast. He's been one of Lance's favorite targets all throughout this offseason. I would take a maybe plus 500 bet on him to catch a plus 50 yard touchdown. That's a pretty good bet. But I think something that we're also not thinking about a ton is field goal kicking for the Niners is a major question mark right now. Signed Joey Sly this week. He struggled with the Texans, got cut from the Panthers. So that's definitely a question mark. And we saw how it came back to bite them last week against the Seahawks. So something to at least keep in mind. And I think a big reason why this line is 5.5 and not 3.5.
It's really interesting how a kicker can affect your game so much. Like, when the guys just hit them, oh yeah, whatever. But then you have an issue there, and it's pretty scary. That's kind of been an issue with Robbie Gould because of all of his groin injuries, like a lot of groin injuries for a kicker. But I like it. I think that, going to this game for the Cardinals side, they're going to have a chance to potentially pick apart the Niners secondary. Now the Niners are getting a little bit more healthy, but they still have really good weapons. Kyler Murray has been a fit for the Niners defense. You can't have Armstead, Bosa, Ford, any of those guys getting sucked inside and just letting Kyler roll out and, be fine. We're going to need a big game from Fred. Going to need a big game from Kowalski Tart in the box, because we noticed, like, I at least feel this way. Like, when there's a running quarterback, we see him a lot around the line of scrimmage a lot more, kind of in, like, not like a true quarterback spy, but like he'll be in as a blitzer, and he'll just kind of have him a little bit more like lurking around the line of scrimmage. So he seems to do a better role in those games. So hopefully we see him flying around. But it's going to really depend on those guys up front. They got to get to Kyler Murray. If they have a chance to take him down, you have to get him down. There was a couple plays last week. I remember I talked about that against Russell Wilson. Like, yeah, easier said than done, but you have to be able to get him down. And it was Dante Johnson came in on a nickel blitz and completely whiffed, like absolutely completely whiffed. I guess Russell Wilson, but like he has his head down, like diving, like flailing at him. Like you're not gonna sack most quarterbacks like that. Tom Brady's just gonna take a one step up in the pocket and he's gonna get away. Like, you can't just go in there like trying to like kill the guy. Like, just wrap him up and get the sack, because you're not gonna get a ton of opportunities. So you got to be really good on the Niners and for terms of that. But for prediction wise, I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals. However, if Lance comes out and looks really good and they catch this Cardinals defense off guard and the Niners defense is able to hang, we could see the Niners win big and a big time upset. Like, I would not be surprised if I saw that at all. But at the same time, more likely than not, this Cardinals team, they look really, really good right now. And so I think more likely than not, you're going to see that the Cardinals win this one. I don't think by like a ton of points, but maybe like a score or a little over a score. That's what my guess would be. Probably, if I had to guess a score, I'd say 31 to 21 or 24, around there. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Niners won like 35 to like 20 something. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that was the game, but I don't know. Where are you at?
I think it's going to be a little bit more low scoring than people think. Kyler's only 1-3 against the Niners, and in 4 career games only has 7 total touchdowns. So, I mean, we've done a decent job against him so far. I'm gonna go a little bit of a different direction and go. We're gonna go 27-24 Niners. I'm always going to pick the Niners. I want to root for my squad. So I'm going to go 27-24. Lance leads them down in a tie game, and Joey Sly kicks the game-winning field goal with like 35 seconds left or something like that. That's my prediction.
I hope you're right. That'd be a pretty
Me too,
sweet
honestly.
Win. If that's Lance's debut game-winning field goal, that
Against
means
a
that he has to
4-0
have
team.
It means he has to have a nice drive at the end too.
Absolutely.
Kind of put the exclamation point. So maybe then, if the Niners are to win this game, the best way for them to win is Lance to drive down the field and have the game-winning drive. Because then he's a starter. There's no way you take a guy out after that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I would never say never with Kyle. He's just, I think people don't realize Kyle's just a little weird. He likes to mess with the media. I think he's just a bit of a strange guy, but that doesn't mean he's a bad head coach.
No, I like it. That's pretty funny. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Also, the Niners kind of being like, "Oh, Jimmy's gonna play." They could be completely bluffing and just trying to not have the Cardinals prepare for it. Like not that they're not going to prepare for it, but forcing them to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. That's what I expect is going on. I do think that it will be Lance. But we also just talked about that in our last video. For today's episode, though, that's going to do it. I know I said that the Niners, I think the Cardinals are going to win this one, but doesn't mean I'm not pulling for the Niners. I hope Trey Lance has an amazing starting debut. I thought he looked pretty solid last week, but hopefully he has a big game and proves that he's that quarterback one moving forward, because I want to see that, and I hope that's the case. But that is going to do it for today. Thank you all for listening, and I'll be back talking to you guys tomorrow.